You won't believe what just happened in NASCAR, because what looked like just another short track incident at Martinsville has suddenly turned into a massive controversy, and now one of the most respected voices in the sport has stepped in to call it out. We're talking about none other than Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his reaction to the dramatic moment involving Bubba Wallace and Carson Hocevar at Martinsville Speedway. And let's just say Dale Jr. did not like what he saw. But before we break down everything that happened, if you're a real NASCAR fan who loves the drama, rivalries, and biggest stories in racing, make sure to subscribe to NASCAR Nation News. We're pushing hard to reach 1,000 subscribers, and your support really helps the channel grow. Now let's get into the story, because this one has NASCAR fans arguing everywhere. It all started during the intense race at Martinsville, one of NASCAR's most aggressive short tracks. As the laps wound down, the racing got tighter, tempers started rising, and drivers began fighting harder for every inch of track. At one point in the race, Bubba Wallace found himself battling hard in the middle of the pack. Right behind him was young driver Carson Hocevar, who had been quietly putting together a solid run throughout the day. Then suddenly, everything exploded. On lap 324, Wallace made contact with Hocevar's car heading into the corner. That contact spun Hocevar around, and it triggered a massive multi-car wreck involving over a dozen cars, bringing chaos to the race and completely changing the outcome for several drivers. The incident instantly became one of the most talked about moments of the race. Hocevar's promising run was ruined. Several drivers were caught up in the crash, and Wallace's own race ended in disaster as well. Instead of fighting for a strong finish, he ended up finishing deep in the field after the wreck. But the biggest reaction didn't come from the drivers on track. It came from a NASCAR legend watching it all unfold. During his analysis of the race, Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't hold back when discussing Wallace's move. And that's when things got interesting. Because according to Dale Jr., the move crossed a line. Now in NASCAR, especially at a track like Martinsville, aggressive racing is expected. Drivers bump each other. Tempers flare. Sometimes cars get turned. But there's a big difference between hard racing and a move that creates unnecessary chaos. From Dale Jr.'s perspective, Wallace's reaction looked like frustration boiling over in the heat of the moment. And when you're racing at a tight, short track where every car is stacked closely together, one small mistake can trigger a massive accident. That's exactly what happened here. What makes this situation even more complicated is that Bubba Wallace actually addressed the incident after the race. Instead of denying it, Wallace admitted the situation got out of control and said he misjudged the corner, explaining that he didn't intend to spin Hocevar. But for many fans, that explanation hasn't fully settled the debate. Because when you watch the replay, the moment raises a lot of questions. Was it a racing mistake, or was it frustration? That's the question everyone in the NASCAR world is asking right now. And when someone like Dale Earnhardt Jr. speaks up about it, people listen. But here's where the situation becomes even more complicated for Bubba Wallace. Because when a veteran voice like Dale Jr. publicly questions a racing move, it instantly changes how fans and drivers look at the entire incident. Dale Jr. isn't just another commentator giving opinions online. He's one of the most respected figures in NASCAR history, and his words carry serious weight inside the garage. When he analyzes a moment from a race, drivers, teams, and fans all listen closely. That's why his reaction to the incident between Bubba Wallace and Carson Hocevar has suddenly pushed this story to another level. What might have been just another short track accident is now being debated across the NASCAR world. Some fans believe Wallace simply got too aggressive in the heat of the moment. Others believe Hocevar may have raced him hard, and the situation escalated quickly. But regardless of which side fans are on, one thing is clear: the incident has now become one of the most talked about moments from the race at Martinsville Speedway. And in NASCAR, when an incident becomes this controversial, it usually means the story isn't over yet. For Wallace, the timing of this controversy couldn't be worse. The driver of the No. 23 car has already been under pressure this season. Expectations are high, especially with strong teammates and competitive equipment from the team. But incidents like this can quickly shift the narrative. Instead of talking about speed or strategy, suddenly the conversation becomes about judgment. And in NASCAR, reputation matters. Drivers remember who races them cleanly and who doesn't. If competitors feel like someone is willing to wreck another car out of frustration, that can create long-term tension on the track. Just ask drivers who've been involved in similar moments before. Short tracks like Martinsville have a long history of retaliation and payback. And when drivers feel wronged, they usually don't forget. That's why some fans believe this moment could create future drama between Wallace and Hocevar. Because for Hocevar, this wasn't just a small bump. His race was effectively destroyed. After the wreck, the young driver made it clear he felt like he had simply been run over during the incident. That kind of statement shows just how heated things were in the moment. And now, fans are divided. Some believe Wallace simply made an aggressive move that went wrong, something that happens all the time in NASCAR. Others believe the contact looked more intentional, like frustration boiled over after being raced hard. Either way, the fallout is real. The wreck ruined multiple drivers' days, created tension in the garage, and sparked a huge debate across the NASCAR community. But perhaps the most surprising part of this story is how quickly it became a major talking point across the sport. When legends like Dale Earnhardt Jr. weigh in on an incident, it instantly adds another layer to the conversation. Fans begin replaying the footage. Analysts start breaking down the move frame by frame, and suddenly, what looked like a single racing moment becomes a full-blown controversy. Now the big question is what happens next? Will NASCAR step in and review the incident further? Will Hocevar respond in the next race if the opportunity comes? Or will this simply become another chapter in the long history of Martinsville drama? Because if there's one thing NASCAR fans know, Martinsville rarely produces quiet endings. Tempers flare, drivers remember, and sometimes the next chapter of the story happens weeks later on the track. For Bubba Wallace, this moment is now under a huge spotlight. The pressure will only grow if similar incidents continue happening. But if he can move past it, refocus and deliver strong performances, the narrative can change just as quickly as it appeared. That's the nature of NASCAR. One moment can define the headlines, but the next race can completely rewrite the story. And with voices like Dale Earnhardt Jr. weighing in, you can bet fans will be watching Bubba Wallace very closely the next time the green flag drops. Because after Martinsville, the spotlight is officially on.